I've said it before in a couple of other Trails related videos I've covered on this channel, but I really don't think there's been a better time to be a fan of this franchise. The newest installment is coming to the West in a couple of months. The first chapter remake got a worldwide release and was immensely beloved by longtime fans and newcomers and should have been at the Game Awards. Fuck you, Kingsley. The series is just on a continuous upward climb and I love to see it. However, one of the biggest surprises for this franchise wasn't actually the worldwide release or the new installment, but instead it was the reveal that Falcom was now finally translating and bringing over Ys vs. Trails on the PSP to modern platforms. Now, I had always heard about this game in passing from my more long-term Trails friends, but I had never really gotten around to it as I just didn't really have a whole lot of interest in it since, admittedly, I'm not the most interested in fighting games, although I have gained more of an appreciation of them over time, alongside not really being much of a Ys fan. I don't hate the series or anything, just haven't really gotten around to playing it yet. So this was technically going to be my first ever real exposure to it outside of the bit I played of Ys 8. And after playing it, what did I think about it? Was it worth the wait? Or was it something that could have just been ignored? Well, how about I quit my yap fest and get into it? I'm Crimson Rosso, and welcome to my review of Ys vs. Trails in the Sky. As per my usual reviews, let's get into talking about what I liked about this game before complaining about what I didn't. And as for my first piece of praise, it has to go to how I really like how this game looks visually. I think the way Ys vs. Trail looks is very interesting, because instead of going for the chibi style that was their most well-known style on the PSP, they instead went with a visual style similar to something like Nayuta, where the character models are more detailed, but they're not full 3D models either, instead fitting into this sort of middle ground between the two differing styles. And while you would expect that would lead to some weird Uncanny Valley monstrosities, in truth, it actually handled pretty well, and the game gets their own special visual flair as a result. I hear this is also the kind of visuals they used for games like Ys 7, but again, I haven't really played the Ys series, so I can't really say. I also just think this style of character design really fits to fast-paced action games because they don't have to worry about super detailed models and can just focus on the speed itself. And with how fast the models are moving in combat, it's definitely appreciated. I also love how much detail is in these maps. I love every area you can fight in the game because they all just look so damn cool. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Sky Trilogy, so getting to see stuff like Estelle Bright's house, the pillar where you fight Loe, and some of the Sanctuary towers was just so cool, man. Getting to one-on-one Loe in the same area where it took an entire team to take him on in SC just made my fanboy heart sing, bro. And the 3D stuff isn't the only eye candy in this game, as the 2D PNGs that appear during cutscenes make every character in this game look stunning. Every character gets a lot of love in their PNG, and it made me really happy to see. It also makes me wonder if these are redone for the game or if this was the original art they had. Either way, they look fantastic. And honestly, this is probably the coolest Lloyd Bannings has looked in any artwork ever. Okay, yeah, we should probably talk about the barrier-sized elephant in the room real quick. Yeah, for those who are unaware, this is actually Lloyd Banning's first ever introduction into the franchise.
Huh?
Yeah, so Falcom decided to take the next protagonist of the Trails franchise and just straight up introduce him here as an Easter egg playable character. Even gets a stage based off of Crossbill City. And honestly, I fucking love this. Introducing your next mainline character in one of your bigger franchises through a spin-off fighting game is such a fucking ballsy move to pull off. It's such a lost art nowadays in gaming culture that it was a massive treat to see here. I kinda actually hope I can meet somebody one day that lived through this. Like, not like getting the remaster or anything, like literally who was playing through the Sky Trilogy on PSP, got this, and then saw Lloyd Banning's like, oh shit, is this the next protagonist? Like, everyone nowadays knows who Mr. Barrier Policeman is, right? We all like the Crossbell games. But I wonder what it was like for the people who just played through the Sky Trilogy on the PSP and saw this out of complete nowhere. If you were actually somebody who was like playing Trails at this point and went through this, please tell me what it was like down in the comments. I am so curious. I should probably get back to the actual video now, huh? Alright, so end of the day, the graphics look good, no real complaints there. So let's get into talking about the gameplay next. This is probably the game's absolute highlight because the combat itself is super fun. Basically, the idea of Ys vs. Trails is an arena fighter based off of every single character in the game having Ys style gameplay. And as a certified Ys virgin here, let me tell you right now, I loved the gameplay. If this is what Ys's gameplay is like in a nutshell, then I'm gonna have a lot of fun when I finally get to the franchise. Now, while there were some standouts I really liked, like the insane speed, every character moves through dodge rolls and air dashes, alongside the really cool flash guard mechanic where blocking at the right time will allow you to get a damage boost for a few seconds, one of my favorite aspects of gameplay is how unique every character plays from each other. Due to it being a fighting game, their characters kind of fit specific archetypes depending on who you use. Estelle is a typical all-rounder character, Joshua and Lloyd are fast and focus on long combo attacks, characters like Tita and Aisha are zoners who are best at mid to long range, Loe is slow but does crazy amounts of damage with his physical and special attacks, and playing as Mishira means you support Hitler, so if you pick her, that means you agree with his ideals, and you probably also think that the Nazis should have won World War II. Every character has a unique lifestyle that makes learning all of them pretty fun, and if you want to take these characters to the next level in terms of gameplay, you actually have the option here to customize them, similar to something like Dissidia Final Fantasy. Now that's stuff you would normally expect from customizations in fighting games. You can swap out special moves they have equipped, accessories can give them attack and health buffs, or you can upgrade their weapons and armor to take more hits and deal out more damage. But if you dig deeper, there's actually some cool extra stuff you can equip to these characters that grant them unique skills during fights. Like certain accessories letting you burn or poison an opponent, based on percentage changes, which is actually really useful if you equip it to a character like Lloyd or Joshua, considering they have really long combos. Or if your character has some devastating special attack potential like Loe, you can offer them up accessories that net them SP for special moves and ultimates faster. Hell, you can take this a step further by equipping an ally that can give you an extra buff, like Shara giving you a speed increase for your attacks. Or there's a character who will give you extra gauge for your ultimate faster. Or using Ellie to straight up heal you in the middle of a battle. There's even a fucking Gurumin ally, so you know this game knows fucking ball. There are so many combinations for each character that even playing for hours, you would probably not be able to discover them all. In my opinion, that is this game's greatest strength. Its insane level of experimentation you can do with each and every character. So don't be afraid to try out whoever you can, and find whatever wacky combo you can use to tear apart your multiple opponents. Now, does that mean that I think this game is perfect? No. Frankly, it has some pretty big flaws that I'll be getting into later, but from a gameplay perspective, it's a ton of fun. It's easy to lose yourself just dicking around in the training or arcade modes with how much addictiveness this combat has. But those are the side modes. How good is the game's story? Well, I am here to tell you that it is fine. Yeah, this is probably the least surprising part of the fighting game not really having a super deep story. It's mainly just a placeholder so the characters have a reason to interact with each other. Go into this expecting it to be your standard fighting game story like I did, and you'll be fine. I would have been disappointed if I was expecting mainline story writing, but since I wasn't, I was never really disappointed. But I will tell you what wasn't disappointing, and that was this game's banger soundtrack. Composed once again by Falcom's own in-house sound team, they deliver another top-tier music track that is just orgasmic to the ears. The remixes and new tracks just blend together perfectly and are so much fun to listen to, and remind me so much of why I love the music from this franchise. But I will also dick suck any game that has Silver Will as part of its soundtrack to the end of time. So, there's also to remember that. And well, that's really all I have to say in terms of pros. So how about we get into the cons next? So when it comes to the issues I have with Ys versus Trails, none of them are really found in the visuals or in the story. Yeah, I could get on to the fact that the story really isn't all that deep, but I'm not really looking for that in a fighting game, and I'm pretty sure most people aren't either. I'd literally have to criticize every other fighting game that's come out in the past 10 years, because I think outside of Tekken 8, none of them have really had a decent story. Nah, the truth of the matter is that all of my issues with this title have to do with the gameplay itself. Or, to be more specific, the annoying aspects surrounding the gameplay. So I'm going to go one by one on all of the complaints I have for it. First and foremost, let's talk about how unbalanced the enemy AI is. Now, in most fighting games, whenever you're doing a story arcade mode, you kind of just expect the enemy AI to not be the best. There's definitely moments where it's challenging, but for the most part, the AI you end up facing in fighting games never really is all that brutal unless you set it to be. In Ys vs. Trails, however, it's a bit of a different story, as this game has one of the single most insane spikes I have ever seen. The perfect example of this is in the story mode, where you're given a couple tutorial fights to learn everything, and then the next battle is just like, alright, figure it out for yourself, dipshit. It's kind of an insane concept to just throw your player to the wolves after giving them only like 1 or 2 fights to get accustomed to the gameplay. It's not my biggest complaint here, mainly because with enough grinding, you can easily match the insane AI. But it is kind of funny that they give you 1 or 2 tutorials and then just go, alright, now figure it out for yourself. Very funny, Falcom. Very funny. Another issue I ended up having with this game is the real lack of any sort of true online mode outside of making rooms to fight people. Really feels like a missed opportunity not to expand on that with this remaster, especially when online and fighting games is bigger than ever. I mean, we did that for the Marvel vs. Capcom collection. Kind of feels like it could have been done for this. Like, maybe the whole thought process here was that they didn't expect to have a whole lot of players, but man, what missed potential to not turn this into a cool competitive game. Hell, they don't even have a quick matchup. Everything is tied to rooms. Maybe the idea was for it to be as faithful as possible to the original, and I'm still glad we got this over in the West, but man, can't help lamenting what could have been with this. But even if I do have complaints about its online or its AI, there is nothing compared to my biggest issue with this game, and that is just how much of an immense slog this game can be in terms of grinding. Now, as you can probably guess, Ys vs. Trails has multiple unlockables you get through playing the game. But unlike other games, where they're obtainable through completing certain sections of the story, or just straight up buying them in the shop, almost all of Ys vs. Trails' unlockable stages and characters are tied to how much BP you've earned throughout your accumulated playtime. You can earn BP either through completing the story mode with one of the 5 characters, or playing through the arcade mode. And while completing all of the story modes can help you unlock a decent amount of it, if you want some of the later stuff, be prepared to be playing arcade mode for what feels like literal weeks. I think the perfect example of this ridiculous grind is how you can get characters like Loe or Lloyd. So playing through this mode with all 5 choosable characters should get you around 5,000 to 6,000 BP. And doing pretty well in arcade mode gets you around 500 to 700 from my own experiences. In order to unlock Loe, you need an accumulated total of over 16,000. And as for Lloyd, you need, no joke, over 25k. This is, without a doubt, the absolute worst part of this game. As a result of chasing these insane numbers, it turns the fun gameplay loop into an absolute chore that you just start getting sick of the longer you chase these things. And while PC players can easily just skip over this by getting an 100% save file, console players are kind of shit out of luck. PC Master Race wins again, bitches! Although, in order to somewhat circumvent this, there was a creator by the name of Bagon who created a pretty effective grinding method, so it'll go faster, that I'll be linking in the description down below. I highly recommend using this if you don't want to put up with the bullshit of this game's insanely horrendous grinding process. With all that said, those are my cons. With nothing else negative to say, how about we move on to my final thoughts? You know, I'm not really gonna lie here. I definitely walked away with this game with more negatives to say about it than I expected. Like, obviously, I kind of expected to have a few things I wasn't gonna like about it, but it did kind of surprise even me. But, you know, even with my complaining, I don't really think Ys vs. Trails is that bad of a game at all. It definitely has some faults and some missed potential here and there, but in all honesty, there's a good amount to like about it as well. Kinda bums me out that this title never really got a sequel to iron out its kinks, and as a result was just left on the PSP for decades until just a few months back. I'm not totally certain how much it sold, but if it does decent enough, I would love to see them try to make another game to improve upon its faults with a better online and try to figure out a way to get characters outside of tedious grinding. Fix those and you've got the formula for an amazing spin-off series. Will it ever happen again? Who knows? Like I said, I don't know how well it's sold. What I do know is that I have no problem saying that this game overall is a pretty solid 6.5 out of 10. Definitely has some issues, but for its asking price, you're getting a pretty fun, if flawed, experience. And that's it for the video. And pretty much going to be it for the rest of Trails content until 2026, when Horizon and the SC remake come out. Unless I can come up with a cool video idea until then. However, until then, I shouldn't have said that twice, I'm going to try to focus on getting through the rest of the Mana games, returning to the Xeno Marathon, and getting out my 2 sponsored Dragon Quest reviews. The first of those 2 comes out next week, actually, so if you want to stick around for that, or you just like this content in particular, do me a favor and like and sub down below. Leave a comment if you're up for a chat or just want to help me on the algorithm. Do that hype thing as well, because it would be really funny if this video, out of all of mine, became the most popular thing on my channel. Or if you just want to hang out with me and my awesome community, or toss a little cash my way to support the channel, check out my Twitch or subscribe to the Patreon for ad-free videos and some other goodies. Both links will be in the description as well. That's all, folks. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time for more RPG content.